Hello everyone, my name is Sonam. I am a software engineer at Google and I work on YouTube in the New York City office. Today I'm super excited to take over the lecture. We can just go ahead and get started. It's the first time doing something like this where I'm in the corner and I'm talking about slides, so hopefully it's okay. Alright, welcome to CSCI100. Fall 2021. This is lecture 18, and today we're going to talk about two new data structures, tuples and sets. But before we get into those, let's start with a quick review of something that we already know. Alright, so lists. In the past, we've used lists to store data when we need more than just one item. So instead of holding 10 different integers separately, we can put them all into a list. And here are some characteristics we know about lists. We know they're mutable, so we can go in and change the things in a list. We know that they have a defined order. Therefore, we can index into them, slice them. We know they can have duplicates, so you can have more than one of the same thing in a list. And we know that this is the syntax to create a list. You have the name of the list equals brackets and your items in the list separated by commas. So these are all good things to keep in mind when we introduce our two other data structures, because we'll kind of talk about why you can't use a list in every situation, and there's times when something else like a tuple or a set would actually be better. Alright, so let's jump into tuples. Okay, so here's the scenario. Let's say I want to store the temperature in degrees for an exact location. So the best way to do this might be to map longitude and latitude together to degrees in a dictionary. So then my key is just the location in longitude and latitude, and my value is the temperature in degrees. So can I store the longitude and latitude together in a list and then use that as a key in my dictionary? So it would look something like this. You would have a list with your longitude and latitude mapped to your degrees. The answer to this is no, we can't. And the reasoning for this is because a key in a dictionary cannot be mutable. And you may be asking why. Like, why can't a key in a dictionary be mutable? And this is related to like the underlying structure of a dictionary. It relates to hashing, which is something that you'll probably learn a little bit later on, so wouldn't worry too much about it right now for the purposes of this lecture. Just know that a key in a dictionary cannot be mutable. So now we need a different solution because I still want to be able to store these two things together and hold them as a key. So our solution here is let's use a tuple. So tuples are similar to lists, but the biggest distinction is they are immutable. We know that immutable means that cannot be changed, and therefore we can use them as a key in a dictionary, which is very helpful for us. To create a tuple, we use parentheses instead of brackets. You may have seen this before in a previous lab. So this would look like this. We would have our longitude and latitude formed as a tuple, and that would be the key in our dictionary, and that would map to degrees. And this is valid because, again, tuples are immutable, so they can be the key in a dictionary. Tuples are immutable, kind of similar to the characters in a string. You might remember that we can get a certain character in a string, but we can't go in and change it. So we can index, but can't change. So tuples are similar in that they're great to use when we know our data will not change, so we'll have no need to go in and update any items. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to jump into a coding demo now. Cool. All right, so let's start with some coordinates. Let's formulate something similar to the example in the slides where we want to map longitude and latitude to degrees. So we'll just start out with some coordinates here. I'll just call this coordinates A. And let's have at least 2 sets of coordinates. So call this coordinates B. And I'll just change this a little bit. It'll be 2 locations pretty close to each other. Okay. So we have our 2 sets of coordinates. Now let's put this into a dictionary. So I'll just call my dictionary something like location to weather. I'll stick my first set of coordinates in there, and let's say that it is 52 degrees. And then let's stick our second coordinates in there, and pretty close by, so we'll say 48 degrees. Okay, so we have our list. Let's see what, we have our dictionary. Let's see what the dictionary contains. Okay, so we did create 2 lists here, and this is what we would expect. We get an error. It says unhashable type list. Don't worry too much about what unhashable type means. Just know that the reasoning is still that I'm trying to put a list, which is mutable, into a dictionary as the key, which we cannot do. So, like we said, solution is to use a tuple instead. So let's try that out. Okay, so that works well. We know that we have our coordinates mapped to our degrees here in a dictionary. So that's cool. And then let's say I wanted to go in and I decided that the coordinates of A are actually wrong and I needed to change them. Let's see if I'm able to do that. Similar to a list, I'll just set the first element in the tuple. And let's say it just needs to be slightly different. Okay, so this is what we expect. Tuples are immutable. It's type error. Tuple object does not support item assignment. So we know that to be true because tuples are immutable.